What Megan just told us, what I was going to say was that I think that the angry rhetoric of Reverend Jeremiah Wright probably has caused any shift in the opinion polls that we've seen about Barack Obama recently, but I do think that those numbers are going to change again.
I think the real test is going to be in Pennsylvania. I think that in some ways it was good for him to do. In other ways, I think that's a speech that he probably should have
had been getting for several years already.
We've been saying it for a long time right now. We all, you know, from my personal opinion, always was that once he became the sort of clearly the front runner in the Democratic nominating process, that I said I thought people would begin to tar and feather him. I've always felt that that's when we would see people really go in and look into his background. You know, we always assumed that Senator Clinton was going to be coronated as the Democratic nominee. It didn't happen, and I think people had been dismissing Barack Obama. I'm reminded of that old news clip where Senator Clinton was talking to John Edwards a long time ago. Remember John Edwards when he was in the race? And they're saying, you know, we've got to get rid of these secondary candidates. And then she goes, oh, hello, Barack, as he walks by. And then surprise, surprise, look what he's done. And so we always knew that this type of media inquiry was going to come. Well, I think it just showed a lot of redactions more than anything else. I question what wasn't in there. I mean, she traveled all over the world.
But wait a minute, because this has been online and publicized. What was redacted by the National Archives it was Social Security numbers, it was phone numbers, and it was addresses, and that's all that was taken out for the privacy of the people she met with.
Well, then that's a wonderful thing. I mean, you know, the First Lady has traveled all over the world. The former First Lady, I should say, has traveled all over the world. And what I would question if I were a Democrat running trying to figure out who I'm going to vote for in this election is whether traveling to 82, 83 countries, however many countries it was that she traveled to, almost as a tourist and as the First Lady, really speaks to the foreign policy experience that she is claiming to have.
I think that was the thing that...
You're a prosecutor. You are the governor of a state. You are, you know, give this aura of being holier than thou, and then you're paying, you know, thousands of dollars to see prostitutes the day before Valentine's Day, and you go home to your wife the next day and say, Happy Valentine's Day. What did you do last night? That's what's shocking.
Yeah, I agree. And
is that why David Patterson?
There were right when the announcement came out and people knew that Governor Spitzer that this announcement was going to be made. I was with a group of women and they were all saying, please, please, when they come out for the press conference, I hope she's not there. And she comes walking out with him, and she was just so grief-stricken. And literally, that was what everyone was saying was, it has to be for her children, because how else could she do that?
But again, do you think it's good for the kids to do it or not do it?
It's not a choice that I would make, but she knows her family, she knows her daughter and daughters, and maybe they needed to see her supporting her husband.
But one last thing I want to get to, and is Michelle Patterson. She gave as good as she got. My point is, I thought you go, lady.
I guess, you know,
So are we witnessing this long, recent history of the Department of Defense fighting sexual assault and sexual harassment ever since Tailhook, really, and even before, finally coming to fruition because we're seeing the numbers drop?
I would certainly hope so. It's so hard to tell because we don't know if the studies have been going on long enough for us to really say that the decrease is a trend that will continue to happen. I certainly hope so. Sexual assault of any type, what's happening in the military is really a microcosm of what we see happening in the nation at large. And it would be interesting to see if we are seeing a decrease in sexual assaults outside of the military as well. Are fewer women reporting? Are more women reporting? I think it's too soon to tell.
Well,